read from this new book that just came out. It's got this dangerous title called The Americans. I know some critic somewhere is ready to start blogging against the title and is either getting ready to smash me, which I probably deserve, but it's sort of a smorgasbord, and that's why I think I needed a broad title like this. My last book felt very narrow in scope, so I was trying to go with a bigger canvas. I'm going to start off by reading a poem that takes place here in California. I lived in Bernal Heights for a number of years, and it's sort of you're in Bernal? All right, good. It's sort of a portrait of the artist as a young man kind of poem, but I make some of it up. Really, this dude he's kind of a loser. I don't think I was that much of a loser, but it was fun to pretend I was. California Cloud. You were never young. You knew it each morning when the light pulled its gauze from some carefully selected part of your body, ankle, chin, and you felt, in view of that great reaching mist dissolving inland, like a blow-up doll bitten too hard by its lover. Then you staggered through fog to follow the rules of the coffee house, only an hour on the socket, saw kids on bikes accompanied on Bernal Hill, until the gab inside Progressive Grounds whipped your eyes alive. The crow-haired barista with the cherub tattoo was saying, up there by the tower is where the coyote lives. She'd seen it. All the cats on alert. You still want to know how it happened, howling above so much domestic life. Inside it, gravel and tasted bait. Oh grovel, oh flatbed lovers and kids climbing hand over fist. They pencil in the slated sky and kink the chains of time. You never shunned safety. When you tried it for the first time, sake tasted like oblivion. Let's move to the third person point of view, as it's clearer. He returned, deleted, returned. Bills racked up. Women thought he was something of a limp fish. He never finished his masterpiece titled Self-Portrait as a crucible of style. Mirrors he hated in weeks of slinking, and when he hiked the hill and found the coyote with 2 holes in its side, he cried for its howling, that creature, his low cortege of clouds. So, there was a coyote that was living in Bernal Heights. Have you heard this story?
I haven't.
And I didn't believe it. I just didn't think a coyote could live in the city. How naive I was at the time. And so I made a wager with my roommate that there's no coyote up there. It was just a myth. And then just a few days later, like there's a picture of it like in a newspaper, and he brought it in, and I had to pay up. Yeah, but it didn't. In real life, I was told. I read in Bernal last night. I was told the coyote died a few years ago of old age, so it wasn't all shot up. This is called Akhmatova's Ashtray, and it's about the Russian poet Anna Akhmatova, whose son was sent to prison, and she lived under fairly dire conditions. And what she'd do is because she was afraid her family would be punished for her writing, she would write out her poems and memorize them and then burn them. That's sort of what the poem's about. Akhmatova's Ashtray. Wolves climb her stairs to sniff along the back of her wardrobe, paw her clothes, but all they smell is smoke. Someone wrote a requiem and never claimed it. Someone bombed all the shops. It happened in Leningrad, plaster flaking, her small concert of words sung through a gate. The little engine of history plows through stone. Someone blacked the domes to fool the bombers. Stay, endure. Someone cut her clothesline, stole her shoes. In the queue along the prison wall, waiting for news of her son, she memorizes bricks and wishes for a basket with the sun clothed over it. Beneath the wool, some bread or a green pear. In her head, a rhythm holds the words. So when she hears claws on her stairs, a gust on the hall's parquet, she lights with her cigarette a white scrap, grinds it to ash. To you, our loneliness together, I raise my glass. This is, I tried to write a series of self-portrait poems as famous as David. People named David who were way more famous than me. So like David Bowie, David Lynch, David Letterman. Most of them failed, but I saved a couple of them. This is self-portrait as David Lynch. You might recognize some of the Lynchian things in here. It's borrowed from some of the movies. I wear a flower in my lapel. I like the sweetness of its lie in my nose, a carnation, the fool's flower, its heart a wilting empire. In late-night editing sessions, I imagine I'm planting flowers in the sockets of eyes. Whatever helps me reach our rigor mortis, bound behind the wheel. A little Bowie on the radio maybe, at 6 frames per second, headlights plowing the dark's divided road. Cities grow to calcified castles. Fish groom the coral brains anchored in a tank's purple volume. I love the scratch of celluloid in a low register noise, the hair of heat burning in a lit bulb. Sometimes I swap my carnation for an orchid or rose. On screen, there's every hint a man-child built the night. I read it once, by flashlight, as a kid, that sleep and death are brothers, and they send our dreams through 2 gates, one made of horn for the true dreams, and one made of tusk for the false. This is called Terra Incognita. And I wanted to write a few poems with some sort of political resonance, which is hard to do because they easily slip into propaganda. And this one seemed to have the feeling without too much of the rhetoric. But it's sort of based in Italy. Terra Incognita. Counting scars of gum on the stairs down from the dome, I briefly felt joy, even though I just read in the World or Times that some of my fellow citizens led men to warehouses or sites lost in chalk republics, where they asked questions in English, and then, when they couldn't grasp the answers, zapped skin, brain, and bones to kingdom come. While I drank like a lush, it happened. While I washed down a pastry with a divine swipe of cheese inside. My hunger deepened in run-down churches and cabs. Spooning soup and eyeing the news, I thought being an American isn't like being from one of the old nations. It's not a gift exactly, but it's also not something to take lightly or give away. I pictured dawn drawing over it, the sun hammering its domes. The campaigns were ramping up, yet here I was eating fries in a piazza, watching boys loop string around a pigeon's neck. Mostly, I got what I wanted, forgot what I was, until a driver in dark shades turned to me and said, "Your people, whoever they are, aren't ready for a woman president, let alone a black." I said nothing, then flogged myself for days until, stomping up Vesuvius, I sucked deep the fog that still smelled like ash. Then I walked down again, thinking about all those faces in the city below. What a shocking fate for a single blast gas to settle on that populace, to crumple like paper, all its lungs. I felt a little heavy. I lighten it up some. There are a sequence of poems in here addressed to the suburbs. I'll read 1 or 2 of those. Because I moved, the suburbs in California are a little different than the suburbs of North Carolina, where I live now. And I wouldn't recommend, no offense, the great North Carolinians and my neighbors, I wouldn't recommend moving from the city to that kind of suburb. Because it's so, well, you can guess, it's so safe and so calm and so prosperous and so white, which is exactly what you want with it, right? All of those things. Dear suburb, what happened to the golden rule among all your shining objects? These daisies and grills, these bikes, even the dog turd dropped on my lawn hidden by a few measly stalks. You've made me afraid to touch clovers and my wife's hidden hooks, and most sadly, the woolen hats on my neighborhood's children, which in winter are bright fruit. The next time you text me, I'll be high on magnolia pollen and munching chips near the Bluebird house. Amazed I can thrive here so close to a city's lost eminence. Will you bring a golden stillness to everything I touch, where I go whole years without suffering so much as a splinter? This is the shortest poem in the book. It's also a Dear Suburb. And my sister told me this is the saddest poem in the book. It's only 3 lines, so I feel like I can get away with it. Dear Suburb, just once I'd like to come home to find that you've scattered the pieces of a saxophone all over my bed. Yeah, that's it. You can snicker. It's supposed to be a little bit funny. I'll read just maybe 2 more. So yeah, the book is preoccupied with life in the suburbs. This is a little bit of a different angle on it. It feels like a book where a lot of the poems are trying to struggle with, I guess, the new paradigm after 9/11, with the political situation and war and uncertainty, which counterbalances all the prosperity in the suburbs and the safety and quiet there. This sort of different angle on the suburbs is called Build Your Dream Home here. First the towers fell, then the Dow. A few years later, while she was still recovering from the blind, fumbling accounts of people crushed to dust, her nights chalked with emergencies, smoke, the news feed, the taped and sniffed envelopes, the falling, that's when they built the place. A roomy number bricked back from the corner. A bank offered low interest. Veterans, no down. In every closet, they'd make love. They'd space out the bushes, lay toast and coffee on the porch. It worked for a while. Their screened-in story were a half-deflated soccer ball wedged the door. Drunk on lilac, they cheered whenever a bee seemed to veer off course. Now boxes, packed with their belongings, cover the lawn. She checks the buttons on her blouse and worries about her husband smoking. Will the lilac survive? Will their mild wilting odor still lure the bees? In some parts of the world, the wood of the lilac is carved into the knife handles or flutes. Lilac, from the Arabic, meaning slightly blue. One more. A friend of ours, a friend of my wife's and Bruce's, maybe some of you know of the poet Shara Leslie. She lived in Amman, Jordan for a few years with her husband who was working over there. And this is sort of like a letter poem that I wrote to her when she was pregnant with her first child, her son. And my wife and I just had our first child, a daughter. And it also takes place in the suburbs. And this is the last poem I'll read, so thank you again for coming out. Letter to Shara in Amman. A tree of despair grows inside me, strengthens. On days like today, when I'm the worst kind of lazy bones and Olivia naps in my lap. Outside, birds chip the air. I should be raking leaves. While pushing the stroller this morning, I felt the welling of materials around me. Airbrushed cars, a half-cane chair by the curb. And paused when I saw a blue jay flattened on the street. I wondered how you'd write about its colors, splayed, faux, angelic, its runty, raptured bones. I've always envied how you chance upon a scene and make a tiny biography of its things. Soon you'll lie near a desert shore and with your new sun look a long way up into the sky. Where's your city? Do the mosques admit you? When I was young, I saw everything through a lens of faith. I can't explain what I was looking for beyond the animals. God, maybe. It had something to do with my divided self. Crazy Heart Crane had it right. My only final friends, the wren and thrush, made solid print for me across dawn's broken arc. That communion, that awe, I crave it. That all I can do is watch football and stroke Olivia's hair. Last fall, a few moments after she was born, I cut the cord. The scissors shook in my fingers. I didn't feel the surpassing power I'd expected. Flowers arrived from nowhere. She slept. I miss California, where we drank good coffee and always talked about grace. Now I stroll over the painted moisture of the leaves. There are too many days when we can't be done with anything, when we dwell. But soon our children will grow and point to things and remind us that a rabbit's child is a bun, and a bird's child is a chick, and a worm's child is two worms. And a sky can have as its child a forest, and a river can have as its child a sea. Thanks a lot.